The compact and subcompact crossover market being flooded with so much units, I picked out the two best sellers in its categories. Now, these two aren't exactly the most fair to compare because one is a compact car while the other one is a subcompact, but price-wise and features performance-wise, they're relatively similar. Here we have the Ford Cherry Titanium Plus and the Geely Coolray Sport Limited. Then I'm going to compare these two cars for you, and then I'm going to give them a verdict. Exterior-wise, the Ford Cherry Titanium Plus is a very grown-up design. You do get full LEDs at the front. You get a blacked-out grille to make it just a little bit more sporty, but if you just look at the general profile of the car, it's just not a very sporty design. It's really more of a classy looking design. There's not much chunky lines going on. Yes, you have a couple of lines over here and flared fenders, but it still does not take away the fact that this car isn't really trying to be the sportiest in its class. Heading on over to the Geely Coolray Sport Limited, and you know that this car is really a very sporty design car. So you do get black and red accents on this one. You even get a chin down below that's very aggressive looking, including this carbon accent over there. Then there's also an all LED affair up front, but towards the side of the car, it gets even more sporty looking. So you do get red painted calipers on this one. You get blacked out rims. You also get these carbon accents on the wing mirror, and just the general shape of the car, its lines, it all points towards a more sporty looking design. So in terms of exterior, I think I'm going to give that point to the Geely Coolray Sport Limited. Now we move on to the engines of these two cars. Let's start off with the Ford Cherry with its 1.5-liter inline-4 turbocharged EcoBoost engine, making 143 horsepower and 225 Newton meters of torque. This is also mated to a CVT transmission. But when you move on over to the Geely Coolray Sport Limited, you have a 1.5-liter 3-cylinder turbocharged engine, making 177 horsepower and 255 Newton meters of torque. Now this is mated to a 7-speed wet clutch dual clutch transmission. So in terms of the engine choices and the transmission, it's a hands-down landslide victory for the Geely Coolray Sport Limited. In terms of interior and tech features, to start off with the Coolray. So just like the exterior, it's a very sporty looking interior. You get black and red accents on this one, plus a lot of really sporty looking aluminum trim. For your tech features, well, you do get a panoramic sunroof, you do get a 360-degree view camera, a very responsive touchscreen, and you also get a couple of features that the Cherry doesn't have. So to start off, your auto self-park feature, it's almost fully automatic. You just have to press the park button. You don't even have to control your throttle and brake anymore. You also get a built-in dash cam, and then you have 3 modes for this one. So you have your Eco, Comfort, and your Sport mode. So as long as you have the key with you, just press the lock button, then this round thing right here for a couple of seconds, and it fires up just like that. However, the main problem with the Coolray is that the interior space is definitely noticeably smaller than the Ford Cherry Titanium Plus. The very moment you step inside the interior of the Ford Cherry Titanium Plus, and you know that just like the exterior, it's a more grown-up look, and you get way better materials in this one. Up top on the dashboard, on the side, and even in the center console, you do get a lot of soft touch, plus really plush looking wood trim as well. Up top, just like the Coolray, you do get a panoramic sunroof, but when we move on over to the infotainment screen side, it is a bit laggy. It tends to hang a couple of times during my drive with it. However, you do get Apple CarPlay that's wireless, and you also get wired Android Auto. You also get cooled seats on this one, just like in the Coolray. You do also get a wireless charging pad on this, which you will not get with the Coolray. Finally, we move on over to the driver aids. This has way more. This has adaptive cruise control and autonomous emergency braking. However, for its auto park feature, it's only like a semi-autonomous self-park feature, so you still do have to control your brake and your throttle, but the steering wheel will move itself for you. Finally, for the space part, this part is just so much bigger than what you would get in the Geely Coolray Sport Limited, and it is also very much more comfort oriented. So in terms of interior and tech features, it's close to a tie, but I think I have to give it to the Ford Cherry Titanium Plus. Now we check out the boot space of the Geely Coolray Sport. And first things first, you do get a power tailgate for this limited trim. And over here, you're looking at over 330 liters of space. And you more than double that if you fold down the rear seats. However, this thing is just generally not as big as what you would get with the Ford Territory Titanium Plus. Now for the Ford Territory's boot space. Now, first thing is that you do not get the power tailgate, but again, that is fine because, well, that's one less thing to break. And now inside here, you're looking at over 420 liters of space, and you can also fold down the rear seats just like the Coolray, bringing this whole trunk capacity to over 1,000 liters. That's considerably a lot more than the Geely Coolray Sport Limited, so in terms of practicality, I would hands down have to give it for the Ford Territory. Driving the Ford Territory Titanium Plus is a very relaxing car to drive in. Your seats are comfortable, noise insulation, at least in the city, is very quiet, and the way it modulates speed bumps and potholes is just excellent. It's just really very relaxing in here. Now, the only problem with the Territory is that despite having 143 horsepower, the CVT transmission does eat in a lot to your power. It's still not as responsive as what you would get in a Coolray, even if you floor this car. Yes, there is power, yes, it's smooth, but it simply cannot keep up with the Geely Coolray Sport Limited. So the driving style of this car, this is one of those cars that you really just want to be able to chill in, be comfortable in. Even if you go on longer journeys, you won't be tired with this car. However, you have to keep a note that above 80 kilometers per hour, it does start to have a really big amount of intrusive road noise. So yeah, that's just the only downside for this one. The steering feel in the Ford Territory 2, it is very disconnected from the road, but it is incredibly light. So that really does add to the comfort-oriented nature of this car. It's just so easy to drive around in town. It's incredibly light and you will not break a sweat when you drive this. In terms of handling, it really does boast a lot more than the Geely Coolray Sport Limited, but that is to be expected because your ride is great, so that is a pretty decent trade-off. Akin to its comfort-oriented nature, that doesn't really inspire you to drive very fast in the city or even in the highway. This car right here is more fuel efficient than the Geely Coolray Sport Limited inside the city at 9 kilometers per liter. However, for some reason, on the highway, this car only returns around 12.3 kilometers per liter. Pricing wise, this car is priced at 1.310 million pesos, slightly higher than the Geely Coolray Sport Limited, and only comes with a 3-year or 100,000 kilometer warranty, which is pretty standard for most cars. So getting into the Geely Coolray Sport Limited coming from the Ford Territory Titanium Plus really gives you a completely different driving experience. This car is something you can easily hoon. The throttle response is incredibly responsive, especially if you put it into sport mode. And then the 7-speed wet clutch dual clutch transmission is also incredibly fast. It's lightning quick in terms of gear shifts. The suspension though, while it gives you really good handling, it does ride a little bit firmer than the Ford Territory Titanium Plus, which really does add to the slightly more sporty nature of this car. The steering feel too, it gives you way more feedback, and it is slightly heavier than the Ford Territory Titanium Plus. However, despite its driving dynamics being generally sporty in nature, you can still easily drive this car inside the city and still be very comfortable. Now we floor this car, you also have paddle shifters. It's just so damn fast. This thing is really a pocket rocket. This thing will eat the Ford Territory Titanium Plus for breakfast any day. It's just that much better when it comes to driving. Fuel economy, you would expect it to be a little bit less than the Ford Territory Titanium Plus because, well, it is a higher performing engine, and that is absolutely true. This car returns around 7.2 kilometers per liter in the city in moderately heavy traffic. And when you get up onto the highway, surprisingly, it's actually a bit more fuel efficient than the Ford Territory Titanium Plus at 15 kilometers per liter. At 1.218 million pesos, the Geely Coolray Sport Limited is around almost 100,000 pesos less compared to the Ford Territory Titanium Plus. And with a driving experience this good, for driving, I really have to give it to the Geely Coolray Sport Limited. As much as I don't want to do this and I don't want to say this, and neither does my viewers, it really does depend. If you want a slightly bigger car that's a little bit more practical and a little bit more comfortable for your daily drives, then maybe the Ford Territory Titanium Plus is for you. However, if you want to bring the fun back in driving and you want a driver-focused car, you should definitely go for the Geely Coolray Sport Limited instead. If you still can't think about that, well, how about you think about it this way in Toyota speak? you have the Toyota Camry and the Toyota 86. Both are similarly priced, more or less, but they satisfy two very different uses. And it really is up to you on which one you want to get. But if you ask me which among these two cars I want to get, well, if I had the money, I think I want one of each.